Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Annalisa and this is going to be my top 10 books of 2022. A few years ago I decided to do categories when I do these best of wrap-ups and I really enjoyed that, so I'm going to do that again this year. And they're not the same categories. I make up the category for each book to kind of describe why I think it should be on this list, because if I just went on pure enjoyment, there would be too many books to make the list. So I really enjoyed all of these, plus they had these added dimensions to them. And I picked all of these from my 5-star section on my Goodreads stats. And there are also 2 different categories that got 2 different books in them because I just could not pick between them. So for best social commentary, I picked The Castle of Tangled Magic, because this is accessible to middle graders, because what do they call them? Middle schoolers, because that's the age range. And it is about socialism. It's about looking into the past and seeing how your ancestors may have been the oppressors and how you need to make sure that in the current world you are working to undo any lasting harm they may have done. It's also about family, found and biological, and everyone pulling together to save one person, because even one life is so valuable. And it was also a really enjoyable romp through a portal world, a portal fantasy world. So it definitely makes the top 10 for the whole year. Then for the prize of best retelling, we have 2 books. The first is The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by Axie O. This I read at the very beginning of the year and I just enjoyed it so much. I got it from NetGalley. I loved the romance. I loved the mythological elements. I loved that it took some of my favorite things from animes and manga that I have read and put them in a prose format. And so we got to dig really deep into them. And even though I had never read a retelling or even the original story of that particular story before, it felt so cozy and like being wrapped up in a warm blanket. Then we have Within These Wicked Walls by Lauren Blackwood. And this one was such a wonderful retelling because I don't think I would like the original story it's based on, which is Jane Eyre. But I really like this story because it changed some key elements that I don't like about what I've heard about the original story. It made the romance way better, and it made the problems make more sense and added a fantastical element. So this is where the Jane character has been hired by Mr. Rochester to get rid of the ghosts and the hauntings in his house that are there because he has been cursed. And it wasn't even his fault, the curse got passed down from his dad. Yeah, Mr. Rochester is much more likable in this story. The side characters were also really interesting and cool. And there's a fair amount about familial love in this story as well. Then the prize of best squad goes to Sisters of Reckoning by Charlotte Nicole Davis. I read a lot of books with really good squads this year, meaning a group of people around the main character or a group of prospective characters. People who work together, have solid friendships, but are also quite a bit different from each other. That's my favorite type of squad. There were several in competition for this prize, but I had to give it to the Sisters of Reckoning because it brought back the squad from the first book and developed their stories in a new way so well, and was all about found sisterhood, changing the nature of your relationships with people you've known a long time, and have them all once again working together toward a common goal. And I really loved the way that they went at that common goal, and also a lot of the members of this squad are queer, so that's cool as well. Then we have Best Sequel, which is one of the books that was up there in contention for Best Squad, and these 2 prizes could have been easily swapped around. And that is This Wicked Fate by Kalynn Bayron. I read both the first book and the second book in this duology this year, so I love the first book as well. But the second book really delivers, and as a sequel, really shines. It develops the squad more. It develops the mythology more, a lot more. We get a lot more information about that. I like the way the stakes are developed after the first book. I also like how it carried through all the things that I liked about the first book into the second book. Then for my favorite magic system, which it was actually kind of hard to come up with a category for this book. It is Rust in the Root by Justina Ireland. Then we have Best Magic School, which I read a fair number of books with magic schools in them this year, and I liked all of them. I really enjoyed the magic school trope. But I had to give it to The Marvelers by Danielle Clayton. It just felt so original in the way it made the school work, the magic that was used in the school, and the social dynamics around the different types of magic. And this also had a very enjoyable squad, which is definitely a very necessary part of any magical school book. And I really loved learning more about the world and like how the past influenced the present, and how there were a lot of secrets, and the squad worked together to try to find those things out. This is going to be a series, and I'm really looking forward to the rest of it and reading more books set at the school. Then we have Best Romance, which I looked at all the books that have romance even as a side plot, not just romance as a genre, but one of the genre ones did win. It was What If You and Me by Ronnie Lauren. This is another less definable one. It is about two disabled main characters. One is an amputee and one has severe anxiety, and I do like disabled stories, but I think the part that I like the best is kind of what it has in common with another of my favorite books, which is The Love Quotient. The Kiss Quotient, which is someone who is anxious about touching and sexual intimacy, being with someone who is very understanding and patient about that, and then working on what kind of intimacy they want to have together, and nobody being pushy about it, and just being super careful and exploring those things. I really enjoy that. Then Best Nonfiction also has 2 books. I would say one ranks above the other, but they were both so good that I wanted to bring them both up. The one I liked the best was I Am Malala by Malala Yousafzai. This was so educational about what went on with the Taliban and why the Taliban emerged powerful, and had a lot to say about how radicalization works, and was also very personal, specific to her life and her region, while also having so much to say about radicalization in general. Yeah, radicalization is such a difficult to understand idea for people who have not been radicalized, but the way that Malala talks about it and like goes into deep into the history of the region and how step by step goes into how things developed really makes it make sense. So I really appreciate that. And then What Doesn't Kill You by Tessa Miller. This is a part memoir, part just information. It is all about chronic illness. I'm pretty sure the author has an IBD, irritable bowel disease, and has had to have like fecal transplants and all sorts of stuff. And it's a lot about not being believed by doctors, and the American health care system really sucking, statistics on chronic illness. And that was really helpful to me as I have my own chronic illnesses, to feel a lot less alone, and also kind of have the studies and the science to back up how I feel about, and how I've heard other people talk about, how the medical system treats chronically ill patients. And I think it would be really helpful for more doctors and any healthcare professionals to read more books like this, the experiences of chronically ill patients, because not being believed is one of the biggest problems. So those were my top 10 books. There were a lot more books that I enjoyed so much, and I really look forward to this next year and finding more books that I love this much. Below there will be information on the HarperCollins strike. If you'd like to leave an emoji, how about one of those like confetti cannon things to celebrate the end of the year and the beginning of the year. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video, and I'd love to know what one of your top 10 books from last year would have been. Bye!